Right, recording is on. And welcome everyone to next episode of Keptn Developer Meeting. As I said before, currently KubeCon in Europe is ongoing, where also Keptn has its own booth. And the infos I got is that quite a lot of traffic is there, which is great to see that there is a lot of interest in the project. And this means also that we are already complete and can kick off today's meeting. There is nothing to share in the news section, means that I would like to hand over directly to Christian.
Thank you. So, share my screen. There we go. So I want to quickly show you a new feature of Prometheus service, which I have been working on, which in short means we can now use Keptn create secret to create credentials for Prometheus service to access an external Prometheus instance for querying metrics. Just to make this clear here, we're not supporting like a full end-to-end delivery use case with an external Prometheus instance. This is only for querying metrics. This feature is already available in the pre-release. I've linked it here, and I'm just going to quickly demo it. So this is my cheat sheet. I have an evaluation project here, and what I can do is I can just create a new secret with a username, a password, and a Prometheus URL. And I'm using some arbitrary URL that I know that doesn't work. Then I am using Keptn create secret with all those credentials, and very important, the scope Keptn Prometheus service. It now tells me the secret already exists, so I'm just gonna delete the secret quickly. Also learned yesterday, when you delete a secret, it's important to add the scope. There we go. I can now create a secret. I could have done the same by going into the settings in my bridge and creating the secret here, by the way. So that's the same thing. What I will do now is I will trigger an evaluation. So I've configured this project for a simple evaluation using an SLI file and an SLO file. And we should see the evaluation appear here any second. Okay, here we go, 10:04, that's the current timestamp. And we're seeing the evaluation has failed. We can see Prometheus service finished with result fail with unable to retrieve metrics. And if we further inspect the cloud event, we can see it tried to query from myprometheushost.com, which was the wrong configuration. Now I do have a Prometheus instance configured locally in the same cluster, which I can just set here. I will just recreate my secret and then trigger an evaluation again. And hopefully this should work now. There we go, 10:05, evaluation succeeded. And if we inspect the cloud event of Prometheus, we can see we have data returned. So one thing to mention here, that with that change, that's a kind of a breaking change, because if you have configured your Prometheus credentials before using kubectl create secret, it most likely will not work anymore. We still have support for that in the code, but most likely Prometheus service with the change will not have permissions to access that secret anymore. So we will make sure that in the documentation it's written down how to convert from from the old secret creation to the new one. But essentially, it's as easy as just using create secret on the CLI or going in here and adding a secret with the scope of Keptn Prometheus service. All right, that's it from my side. Any questions? If not, I'll hand over to Florian.
All right, thank you. Actually, Johannes, may I ask you to share the screen, because as soon as I share it, I'm hearing myself all the time, which is very irritating.
No problem. Let me do that. And I assume, okay, I will open up that one, right?
Okay. Perfect, yeah. Yeah, so what I've done this sprint mostly was, yeah, first of all, remove the distributor from the API service. That's because now that we have the new CP connector library, we can use that in the API service to send events to NUTS or forward them when they're received at the endpoint. So that makes everything with respect to achieving zero downtime a lot easier, because we don't have two containers that are dependent on each other in the same pod. And yeah, since the API service was only using the functionality of sending events to NUTS in the first place, it made a lot of sense to just directly send them to NUTS instead of via the distributor proxy. So that's that. And then if you go back to the document, yeah, for the remaining sprint, I've exclusively worked on testing our zero downtime capabilities. Basically, was setting up a test setup where I'm triggering sequences every 2 seconds, for example, and while I'm doing that, upgrading the images of services like the shipyard controller, lighthouse service, resource service, etc., and seeing if the sequences that I'm triggering are able to complete. And yeah, I found a couple of minor adjustments that still needed to be made with respect to the readiness checks of the Kubernetes pods running the task executor services. And yeah, also in the new CP connector library, some minor tweaks were necessary. But at this point in time, it looks very, very promising that we are going to be able to achieve zero downtime. And this will actually also be the main focus of the development team during the upcoming sprint. So we really want to make sure that we test everything, catch all the potential corner cases, and really be able to say with confidence that we are zero downtime ready. And that's it from my side. So I'm handing over to Andre.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll share my screen. Good, so you should be receiving it. Yeah, so the last sprint, I worked as well as Flo mostly on the zero downtime preparations for the services. As was already mentioned, the new CP connector library was introduced, and now now we are adapting our services to use the CP connector library. So I was doing that for the Lighthouse service and approval service. When adapting the services, we came across a problem that actually the CP connector library does not have the functionality to forward the LO logs of the services. So this needs to be this was needed to be implemented. So the new log forwarder component was introduced to the CP connector library, which can be used now also. And yeah, upon that, the Lighthouse service and Approver service were adapted to use the CP connector library. So that means the Helm charts, also the code in the in the services and everything that was needed, also with integration tests. Yeah, that was mainly the most of the time of the sprint, and at the end I had some time to improve the developer documentation, mostly for API endpoints, and also for the integration test, it's updated. And when someone needs to use the integration tests locally, the whole setup and execution should be now up to date, as well as the endpoint documentation with updated return codes and models. Yeah. Any questions to that? Probably not. So I will hand over to Ermin.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm going to present a pull request for the Keptn's bridge today. It's about making the filters in the sequence screen stable across page refresh. And yeah, previously, so you were already able to, and I could live demo this, apply filters on the sequence screen so that the list of sequences that you're seeing is filtered. And this was just, this was not stored. So when you switched screens, you lost all your filters. And now we save those filters, firstly to the query parameter of the current page and also to the local storage. So when you refresh the page or visit the page with query parameters, they are loaded into the filter. And also when you switch pages, then, or if you visit the page without any query parameters, it will load your old setup from the local storage. And so you can save these filters or even share them by copying this link, sending it to somebody. And also what
does it reset when you switch projects?
Yeah, that's what I wanted just to say. As you can see, I visited the test project earlier with the staging stage filter enabled. And so for each project, we store this separately. I still have a problem with the redirect here because we have here a very specific handling for switching the project, but keeping some deep link, parts of the deep link, which I still need to figure out and fix. But yeah, the filters will be stored to the local storage with for each project separately. And as you can see, I have here a filter which, yeah, obviously there is a sequence with a staging stage, but we have here kind of a paging. And on the first page, it was not showing, but I could load all the sequences. And there I would see, for example, this one sequence, which was executed on the staging stage. Yeah, and for that also we have the clear all button, which will reset. And then, of course, when you visit the page, you always have this reset. Okay. Yeah, that's all from my side. And I'm handing over to Elisabeth, if there are no questions.
So, thank you. Let me share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to present the automatic provisioning feature that is now also available for the bridge. So this is the PR, and if you want to test it or to install it, here is a short instruction how to do that. So basically, what you have to do to have it in the bridge is to set the control plane bridge automatic provisioning message for a customized message in the bridge, as well as the control plane features automatic provisioning URL to tell the bridge that automatic provisioning is now provided and the Git upstream is not required anymore. So let me just show how it affects the bridge when this is set. So for creating and updating projects, it will alter the Git upstream repository form. So as you can see, this is the test message I have set in my Keptn installation. And also what is now shown is this no upstream button that can be selected if I don't want to provide any Git upstream. The rest of the forms still work the same as usual. So this is still what you're used to. This is the only change that's here. So you have then to give in a project name and the shipyard and can create the project in this way. So for already existing projects, so if you have HTTPS already configured, the default form for the settings is HTTPS, and you can switch between HTTPS and SSH. It's not possible to delete or to unset the upstream. It will also show a hint that this is not allowed and why it's disabled at this point. So this also works for SSH. It's the same basically. And if you have set up a project without any Git upstream, it's pre-selected and the message will be shown that there is no Git upstream configured, but you cannot save anything. And you still can configure an HTTPS or SSH upstream if you want. So yeah, that's basically it. Any questions?
Yeah, Elizabeth, can we add here the hint that it's actually recommended to use a Git repo?
This hint will be shown if there is no message configured. So this is the, so if you don't have this message configured, this is the default behavior that we recommend you to install an upstream. This is just a special case if someone provides on installation this custom message in the helm values, then this is displayed instead. I think, do I have some screenshot somewhere? I don't know. There, yeah. This message still is displayed if you don't set the message. So I hope this answers your question.
Yep.
Okay. Any further questions? Otherwise, I will hand over to Klaus.
Thanks. Let me share the screen. Okay. So, let's start with the other bridge updates. So the first issue we had was that we didn't show a notification on the update. So if the resource service was configured and you update the project, then there was no notification that the GitHub stream was updated. I can show it simply with Cypress. Just a minute. Okay. Here we know if the upstream is updated, we show this message also because on save this was missing if the resource service was enabled. So yeah, this message is now here. So just a minor change. Next to that, also there was an validation error. So for the Git token, the validation was triggered after the GitHub stream was updated, but only in Firefox. So this was no problem in Chrome, but in Firefox. But this was just a missing type for a button that it triggered the whole validation again after resetting the token. So yeah, this message is now only displayed invalid, not after an update. Then the next thing, yeah, we have some performance improvements in the project board, because for the environment screen, we are loading all sequences, the first sequence for all services for all stages. This did not scale well, because if we have, for example, 10 stages and 10 services, this would result in 100 API calls to the sequence endpoint. This is now improved due to the adjustments on the API, that we can now provide several Keptn context for the sequence, and now up to 100 sequences are loaded with one API call. So instead of 100 API calls, this is now reduced to one. So this is a huge improvement if you have a lot of stages and services, and yeah, a lot less API calls. Next to that, we upgrade to Angular 12, just a minor change, nothing new on the UI. Was pretty straightforward, just some new strict checks were added and one or two new configurations for the tests. And that's basically it, no major change or something. Then also for a sequence screen, I reduced some API calls, because for the metadata we show here on the filter, the call was triggered every time the sequence list here was updated, and this is not needed. So also the API calls in this screen are reduced just to one at the beginning for the metadata, or if the project is changed. Yeah, that's to that. And the last thing, for SSO, we had a problem that if the API call to the metadata endpoint of the API server service failed, then the bridge was not able to be accessed. And this was also a problem that the logout was not shown. I can simply change it, but you know that the response fails. I just set the response to null, and then we will see if it is correctly updated. That the Keptn version could not be fetched. It's then NA, because the metadata is not available, but I'm able to see the bridge, and I'm also able to log out here, because this information was lost before. As you see in the issue here, there was nothing. There was no option to log out or something else. And this was adjusted, and this doesn't depend on the metadata endpoint anymore. There are also some additional checks, let's say, for the create project and the update project, because they depend on the metadata endpoint, and so we just permit the action if the metadata endpoint cannot be retrieved. Then we just say action is not permitted. And also for the update project thing, we say here this is not permitted, because the metadata could not be fetched, because maybe it is not available, or there's another case where you set up your own permission handling and return a 403 in that case. Yeah, that's then everything from my side. Any questions? If not, then I will hand over to Johannes.
All right. Just a quick update on an item that is keeping me busy right now, and it's the Keptn enhancement proposal 81, which is basically the goal of switching from the branch-based model to the folder-based Git usage. And here I'm currently faced with the discussion, or with the not problem, but with the situation that would like to clarify how we are then really designing the folder that the user then can create the folder structure. And let me just open up this Miro board for a second, because I have here two approaches that can be compared with each other. And it's the first one I call the stage-centric approach, which is basically a mapping of our current API endpoints from the configuration service to the folder structure. And this would then end up in a structure that looks like that one, where we have a .keptn folder, then we have slash project underneath, and then also stages or stage underneath. And then within the stage, we then store the configuration for the services. As shown here by the yellow lines, those folders, yeah, they are actually then served by those endpoints, which is fine. And from what I understand, also currently implemented in the resource service, which already supports this feature. And this would then end up in an example as shown here. We have project config, stage config, and here we have then our service configuration. But as you can see, this folder would start with stage at the beginning, then the definition of the stage, and underneath or below is then the service-specific config. So far, so good. But a proposal would be to also bring the service on the top level, meaning to have project, stage, and service on top level, and then below the service, the subfolder stage. And this would then be shown here by an example where we have again project configuration, service, pure service configuration, and stage configuration, and then here service config. But this can then be stage dependent. And this approach of storing config this way would make it, from my point of view, a little bit easier to then do some overrides, because we have here then the same subfolder structure in the service folder as well on the stage level, and we could easily override service specific config with the stage default. And this is a little bit harder with the previous approach, as the path or the folder structure does not match that easily, and makes it, from my point of view, a little bit more difficult to override config. But this is currently in discussion. I would like to invite everyone who is interested in that or has an opinion to, first of all, go to the CAP 81, read it, and then also provide your comment, especially on this question right now. How should the folder structure look like? This is kind of my proposal, but I'm also open for other ideas, so that we then can conclude a solid solution. All right. Are there any questions immediately to that topic?
The project folder is basically now what we have in our default branch, right?
Right. Yep. This is what we have in the default master main branch, where the shipyard lives. Then we have a metadata file in there. Yeah, that's basically it.
One concern that I would have is probably be able to figure it out, but depending on the approach we do, it would be nice if we can automatically distinguish between that's a service or that's a stage. I think with the approach you have here, it's very clear by looking at it just with your eye. You see this is a service or this is a stage, but we need to make sure they're separated in folder, because if we start mixing them, which is probably the old approach, then it's very hard to automatically say, okay, that's a service or that's a stage or that's a default or that's actually configuration. So I think this approach nicely separates it.
Okay, thanks. But I had the same thought or problem that, or we need to clearly make a differentiation of what is a service, what is an entity of Keptn, and what is differentiation between Keptn services. Yep. Thanks for your
So
ideas.
I can absolutely see the motivation behind it. That's cool.
Thanks a lot. Any other ideas, thoughts on that? Okay, it's not the case. Then yeah, I was the last one in the list, the agenda for today. Are there any other questions from the community, for example?
Yeah, just a quick heads up. Am I audible?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Oleg.
Yeah, just sorry, I was still fixing the hardware half of the meeting. So one update that we have GSOC project announcements tomorrow. So as an organization, we will know them today, but public projects will be announced tomorrow at the end of the day. So by now, I don't know how many projects were accepted and what topics will be covered in these projects, but hopefully we'll get maybe up to 5 slots. Let's see. It's very unlikely that we get 5, but who knows. Other news. Today we have Keptn project office hours just in 2 hours. So if you're interested, please join and participate. And yeah, there will be interesting conversation there. I'm not sure what exactly will be the topics, but we'll focus on Q&A, maybe on some basic Keptn introduction. And yeah, everyone is welcome to participate. And also, we get a bunch of feedback from users at conferences. So it will take some time to process all this feedback, but hopefully we will communicate everything to the contributors soon.
Cool, thanks. And Oleg, do you have also some news to share coming from KubeCon?
At the moment, no. So important news is that Keptn incubation, as I announced on Slack, is stuck at the moment. So they paused all the public comment periods until May 25th at least. And it means that optimistic Keptn incubation date would be the beginning of July. Nevertheless, all previous requests stand. So if you want to share quotes for the announcements, if you want to create some content, for example, I was thinking about re-recording history of Keptn together with Johannes and other contributors who started Keptn. So any additional ideas are welcome. We have more time to prepare.
All right.
Other news from KubeCon, I don't know. So one important thing that CD events was publicly announced on Tuesday. It was a bit unexpected for contributors, including me. I'm not sure why the announcement happened that way, but the fact is the fact. The announcement went public. So one of the items for Keptn would be to adopt the new version of CD events once we are ready. So the plan is to have alpha specification officially announced, and we can integrate it and see what are the differences. I also briefly pitched application lifecycle services and application lifecycle events. And basically, CD events contributors were rather interested in having it as a part of CD events standard instead of creating a new one. So maybe it's also an item we could discuss with everyone.
Cool. Yeah, great news. And thanks for the update. All right. Yeah, interesting times in front of us. Are there any other? Are there any other questions, feedback? Okay, looks like it's not the case. Then thanks for joining in. I hope it was interesting for you. Yeah, I found it very interesting. Great presentations of all the features and improvements that have been implemented the last 2 weeks. And yeah, stay tuned. New features are coming. A new release is around the corner. And yeah, see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
I will get the recording published.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry for not being very active today.